Hey guys, what is up? Big Road Reviews here. Today I want to be talking about my top 10 favorite scenes from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. As you know, Better Call Saul just ended a couple days ago, actually, the series finale, and I wanted to wait to make this video till the end because I wanted to talk maybe if there were some scenes in the finale, and there actually is. So that's why I wanted to wait. You know me, if you've been with my friend for a while or even recently, or if you watch my videos, you know Breaking Bad is my favorite show of all time. Better Call Saul complements Breaking Bad so well. It makes it so much better. You view Breaking Bad different and just everything. So if you haven't seen Better Call Saul, please, I'm begging you, if you listen to my advice once, please watch Better Call Saul. It might seem slow at first couple episodes, even like the first season or two. I'd say there's still some really good scenes in there, but it's not Breaking Bad. But as you get on, then you meet, Gus and the cartel, and now then it starts becoming like Breaking Bad, and you have these two worlds combined. But anyways, I'm gonna start going off. But a Better Call Saul review will be coming out soon. I do want to review it. We're gonna be talking about my top 10 scenes from both shows. Now, obviously, with shows that are made with this much care and effort, there's going to be way more than 10 scenes, and I will mention some honorable mentions, but these are my 10 that have stuck with me since and mostly seen, some of these scenes I've seen before the show, like before I watched Breaking Bad, like I knew about some of these scenes, but they still hit just as hard when I was watching the show, and that just goes to show how good of a show this is. Now, obviously, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, tune away, or if you don't care, watch, or if you have seen it, watch. We can discuss in the comments below too. I want to know what your favorite scene is, because there's a lot. Hi, Editor Joey here for his third video appearance in a row. Man, Joey, you really got to get your shit together making these videos. But just to let y'all know ahead of time, I don't know why I didn't mention it in this video, but spoiler warning, if you haven't seen Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, please click away unless you don't care. But I highly suggest at least watching it before. Thank you, enjoy. So we're going to go ahead with number 10. Number 10 spot is the newest scene, and it is from the Better Call Saul finale, and it is the courtroom scene. Now, if you don't know, if you're just watching this, you don't care to watch Better Call Saul, basically, some part of Better Call Saul takes place post Breaking Bad, and Saul Goodman ends up getting caught. I'm just gonna really fast go through the timeline. He gets caught. He's in there, and the whole theme of Better Call Saul is that Jimmy can't change. That's why they have Jimmy's brother Chuck talking about how he can't change as a person. He never will.
He'll never change. He'll never change. Ever since he was 9, always the same. Couldn't keep his hands out of the cash drawer. But not our Jimmy. Couldn't be precious Jimmy.
And in this scene, he's such a good lawyer, which is ironic because Chuck doesn't think so, but he's such a good lawyer that he was looking at 180 years or 90 years or something, and he got it down to 7 years. He just had 7 years for everything he's done in Breaking Bad. But he loves Kim so much, and at the end of the day, Better Call Saul is a romantic drama, I'd say, because of Jimmy and Kim's relationship. And at the end of the day, he just finally is done running and hiding and not admitting to things, and he goes up on the jury, and he just lets it all go. He explains how Walter White couldn't have done it without him. He was there for every step of the way. He was not manipulated, and he does this because it's either 7 years of prison and no Kim in his life, or life in prison, but you can still have Kim in his life. And he makes an elaborate scheme to get her there to see him do this, and the show ends with them sharing a cigarette, just like they did in the first episode of the show. And it's a content ending. Like, you kind of knew where it was going, because like obviously Breaking Bad, Walt dies, and El Camino, Jesse, gets free, and Saul had to be the one to go to prison. They all get what they deserve, if that makes sense. So that scene just really stuck with me, and him finally dropping the Saul Goodman persona and saying, "My name's James McGill," when they called him Saul Goodman. Because throughout Breaking Bad, you look at Saul Goodman, and you're just like, "Huh, Saul Goodman, that's a funny name. Like, he's using it. He's a funny guy." And now, this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier, when Better Call Saul makes you look at Breaking Bad in such a different way, because now you see that he's using Saul Goodman, and it's so tragic that he's using it, because he's just pushing Jimmy McGill, like the good part of him, out, and he's just being this con man. And this scene, he just drops the act. He says, "My name's James McGill," and yeah, it's just really great. It's a really good send off for the character in the Breaking Bad universe. Number 9, yet again, another Better Call Saul episode. Scene, and yes, I know there will be Breaking Bad scenes. Like I said, Breaking Bad's a little bit better, so obviously those are going to be the top ones. My number 9 scene is "It's All Good, Man" from the season 4 finale of Better Call Saul. The beauty of Better Call Saul is that the first 2 like 3-ish almost seasons, you don't really see a lot of Saul at all. And the whole show, you're like, I want to see Saul Goodman. I want to see him. I love Saul Goodman. And the show just crafts Jimmy as such a character where when he finally becomes Saul Goodman, it's like, no, don't become Saul Goodman. Like, stay Jimmy. That's just how good the show is. And this is where he gets a series of events happens in this season, which is actually my number 4 spot, which you'll understand. But he basically loses his law for a year, and he finally gets it back. And this is the final scene in season 4 where he says, the girl's like, oh, hey, Jimmy, follow me. He's like, oh, I'm practicing. And he just gets into the character, and you see how his hands move with the ring, and he's like, I'm not going to be practicing under the name McGill. It's like, he goes to the speech for his brother, talking. He's like, I love my brother. And remember back to what I just said, number 10, where he never admits, like, that he has some problems. He basically makes up these lies like, oh, I've been crying, blah, 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 so he can get his law degree back, and he makes Kim believe it. And so Kim's cheering, and I'm just going to play it right here because it's kind of hard to explain.
I knew you had it in
so
you.
great.
I mean, yes, they have to reinstate you. Right?
Yeah, did you see those suckers? That one asshole was crying. He had actual tears.
Also, another thing to mention is this line where he says those assholes had tears. If you watch the scene where he's in the court explaining why he should be a lawyer again, it actually pans to Kim, and Kim is actually crying. So he's inadvertently calling her an asshole in this scene and, like, stupid for believing his lie. Such great storytelling.
I'm not going to be practicing under the name McGill, so.
Shouldn't be a problem. Just down the hall, we have all the floors.
Great.
Wait, Jimmy, what?
It's all good, man.
I had chills going down my spine, and I just sat there for a while. I'm like, damn, I really wanted Saul Goodman, but now I have him, and it's just tragic. And it was just a really good scene, and it made me want season 5 so bad. Number 8, we're finally on to some Breaking Bad scenes. This one is the famous I am the one who knocks speech. This, if you ever think of a Walter White speech or monologue, you think of a couple like Say My Name and Tread Lightly and I'm in the Empire Business, but I am the one who knocks is the one that always comes to mind for me. This is truly Heisenberg taking over Walter White. This scene is also why I love Breaking Bad, because of its use of visual storytelling. If you look when it starts, he's wearing a bright red shirt or like a jacket, and when he starts talking with Skyler, he takes it off. It reveals a dark red shirt underneath, showing the darkness that is Heisenberg taking over the once pure Walter White. I mean, basically by this time in season 4, it's mainly Heisenberg in control, but you still see a little bit of Walter, like how he's scared. But this is the scene where, Skyler's just talking to him, and she's like, you have to, don't be afraid, you're afraid. And he's like, who do you think you're talking to? Like, a guy walks through that door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No, I'm the one who knocks. And it's just such good dialogue, and the way Bryan Cranston delivers it, and Anna Gunn's just shocked face, I was hooked, and I just wanted to see how this character is going to go.
You clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in. I am not in danger, Skyler. I am the danger. A guy opens his door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No. I am the one who knocks.
Because Walt's downfall is ego, and you can see his ego throughout season 4 building and building. The only thing holding it back is Gus, which we'll talk about Gus in a little bit. If you know what I'm thinking of, then you should know. But once he gets rid of Gus in season 5, after season 4, then season 5 is just his ego. So this is really where you see his ego, where he truly thinks he can outsmart everyone, and he's the strongest person in this business, and it's just amazing acting. Number 7 is actually from Better Call Saul. Sorry guys, I know a lot of Better Call Saul. I know most of you guys have seen Breaking Bad, but this is Howard's death. This, I have not been shocked from a TV show this live since probably Glenn dying on The Walking Dead. Like, obviously Breaking Bad would shock me, but I saw it before that episode. So Howard's, me and my mom actually watched Better Call Saul together, and she doesn't really watch a lot of shows, and she was just freaking out. Like, her jaw was dropped. She couldn't believe what was happening. This is where finally the two stories collide. You have Better Call Saul, you have Jimmy's story about his brother and the manager. Then you have the cartel story with Mike and Gus and Hector, and you see their upbringings, and Nacho. So this is where they finally meet, where they finally just come together. Basically, they finally fucked Howard over. Their plan succeeded. Everything's great. Howard shows up, and Howard is such a amazing character, because he's the type where in season 1 and 2 and all that, you always thought he was an asshole just because he was opposing Jimmy, and they set him up like that to make you want to not like him. But at the end of the day, he's a really good guy, and you find out that Jimmy and Kim are the assholes. And basically, you know, after Howard just got humiliated and fucked over and everyone thinks he's a drug addict, he comes to their apartment late at night and he's like, I just want you to know, you know, I still go to therapy. I'm going to be on my feet after this. And he's just basically telling, it's the biggest fuck you that Howard could say to Jimmy and Kim without actually saying fuck you. Because he's like, you guys did all this. Like, it's pathetic. I'm going to be on my feet. I worked on myself. And it's just really great. I loved Howard in this scene, because he, instead of like the typical, what the fuck are you doing? It's just, I'm working on myself. I'm going to be able to get on my feet and recoup from this. And you truly believe it. And they do a beautiful thing in this episode where every time the door opens, the candle flickers. So the first time it flickers is when Howard walks in, and then they're talking there, and then it flickers again. And you're like, holy fuck, that's Lalo. And what's great is in the earlier episode, Lalo doesn't know what to do. Basically, he has no plan anymore. He sees a cockroach where he's staying, and that makes him think of when he was talking to Saul, and he was like, you're my little cockroach, or something like that. And that made him think about Saul. So it's just wrong place, wrong time. Lalo goes, I'm going to show you the quick little scene. Warning, it's a little graphic, man getting shot in the head TV show, so if you don't like that, skip ahead a little bit, but this is the scene.
Sure that everybody knows the truth. Believe it. You can't hide who you really are forever. There's really no need to...
Oh my God! No! Oh my God! No!
Yeah, that, no music, nothing. He just walks in, and he just starts tightening the silencer on. And I love how Howard, even after what Jimmy and Kim have done, he still cares about them a little bit. And Howard just walks in and shoots him mid-sentence, and that was literally the end of the episode, and we had to wait a month to find out what happens with Howard's body, what happens with Lalo. And I was in shock for a couple minutes after that episode. I couldn't believe Howard actually died, because he's such a nice character, especially in season 6. Like, you just see him getting fucked over by Jimmy, and it just sucks. But yeah, that scene was amazing, well shot, well acted. And yeah, all right, number 6 is actually the final scene of now what do you technically call a scene? How many minutes? So I guess I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I guess the final maybe 5 to 10 minutes of Felina, which is the final episode of Breaking Bad, and arguably, in my opinion, the best TV show ending of all time. It's really hard to stick the landings, and it'll make or break a show. Look at Game of Thrones. I've never seen it, but I know from what people talk about how it was one of the best shows of all time. The ending just sucks so much ass that no one really cares. And same with Dexter and Lost. So they had to hit the nail on it. And just like my number 10 spot, they hit the nail on Better Call Saul too. That's why I had trust in Better Call Saul. I wasn't even worried, because I knew they were going to end it well. But this, oh man, you get everything you want, right? Walt comes back after a beautiful... Man, the final half of season 5 is some of the best fiction I've ever seen. Especially the episode before the finale, where he's just given up after his son tells him to basically fuck off, and he sees gray matter on the TV, and you see the rage building up, and he just disappears, and you knew that he needed to get some shit done. And he finally avenges Hank's death by killing Jack mid-sentence, and you have the beautiful dialogue between Jesse, and it's in the script, and it's confirmed by Vince Gilligan, who created the show, and Bryan Cranston, who plays Walter White, that Walt was going there to also kill Jesse, because he thought Jesse was cooking for them and being a regular guy. But when he got there and he saw him chained up and marked, that was when he decided to jump on Jesse to save him from the gunfire. And I just love that so much. But he goes there, he avenges Hank. Him and Jesse have that beautiful moment where they talk, and Jesse's like, you do it yourself. And he makes the phone call and gets that bitch Lydia. He gets that bitch Lydia to die from the ricin, and he just hangs up on her ass. Him and Jesse giving that beautiful last look to each other of just have a good life, Jesse. Jesse escaping, he's finally free, and he's just screaming, and you'll see his story in El Camino, but he's just screaming, he's free, and it cuts to Walt he looks sad, but overall he's satisfied. He knows his son's going to get the money. He made a little bit of amends with Skyler. He avenged Hank, and he just dies in the lab where he truly felt alive. And the final shot of just the pan up from him, just with a face of almost satisfaction on his face as the camera pans up and he's dead. And I do like that the cancer did not get him in the end. It was a bullet from his own doing. from his car. So it wasn't the cancer, which was cool. But man, what a great finale. Just really, like, that's how you need to make finales. Come on, all these payoffs. My number 4 spot is Crawl Space, which is, I think, season 4, episode 11. This is probably the most anxiety I felt in the whole show, I would say, or one of the top. So basically, this is the peak of Walt versus Gus. Walt is so paranoid about Gus wanting to kill him off for kind of good reason, honestly. And so he finally decides, you know what, we're going to go to the vacuum repair, we're going to leave, and he goes under his basement to get the, I think it was like $200,000 or something he needed, and that's when the two storylines of the season collide, where Skyler tells him that he gave it to Ted, and Walt just gives up. Walt's in this crawl. I'm going to play a clip right now just to show you, like, the music and Walter's laugh is nuts. So yeah, I mean, him just in the crawl space, just laughing, he just basically gives up. He's like, he goes insane, and then and Skyler freaking out, Marie calling about how she thinks they're in danger, and then the camera pulling up to make it look like he's in a casket. Oh, this is how you make a TV show, okay? I mean, I was glued to the screen, my heart was racing, and I was flipping the fuck out, and it just leads to one of the best finales of all time, or best in my number 3 scene, which we haven't talked about yet. But yeah, great scene. I mean, how many times I have to say the acting's amazing in this set pieces and the filmmaking? I mean, the show is just a top notch, and this is just, it's better than most films I've seen. It's a fucking TV show on AMC. 4th spot, this is going to be our last Better Call Saul scene. This is chicanery. This is season 3, episode 5 of Better Call Saul, and this is the build-up of Chuck versus Jimmy. So if you don't know, just a quick little recap of Chuck. Chuck is this really great lawyer, and he gets this disease where he's like allergic to electricity and it makes him hurt. Now we don't know if this is like, I don't know if I'm just being ignorant. I don't think this is a confirmed disease. I know some people actually do have it, but I don't think scientists, there's something where scientists don't know exactly about it. But either way, you see flashbacks of Jimmy caring for Chuck, but Chuck just doesn't really respect Jimmy. And at the end of the day, everything Chuck says about Jimmy is right. As much as you hate Chuck because you're rooting for Jimmy, just like how you rooted for Walt and hated Skyler, even though Skyler's the right one, you know. So this is the whole build-up where he takes Chuck to court and they turn all the lights off and everything, and Chuck thinks he's like, I got this, you know. I know Jimmy's gonna try to like expose something of me, and basically it just happens, and this is where they bring Huel back, which is great, and this is where Chuck just starts talking, and he's winning at first, right? He's like, yeah, you know, like, Jimmy, you'll never change, blah, 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 and he's like, what's in your pocket? Because Chuck kind of anticipated that Jimmy would plant something, right? Or like do something, so he's like, oh, is it a phone? He's like, and he pulls the phone out, and he's like, no battery, look. And Jimmy's like, you got me, Chuck. And Chuck's like, when will you learn? And that's when Jimmy's like, go into your front pocket and take out, and it's a battery. And he just throws it on the ground. And this is basically the downfall of Chuck. This is what leads to Chuck's eventual suicide in the season 3 finale, because he lost. This is a beautiful, I think it's like a 1:30 speech. I'm gonna play a clip of it right now.
Stealing them blind. And he gets to be a lawyer? What a sick joke. I should have stopped him when I had the chance.
The speech has gotten meme to hell, as most things with Breaking Bad, but this is, I mean, Michael McKean's acting is incredible. You just see him break down, and the way they move the camera closer to him slowly over time as he does his monologue, you can tell that the anxiety's kicking in, and he just feels like he's getting into a box, and it's just great visual storytelling that's subtle, and everything he says is right. He's like, 12-16, I know those numbers are 12-16, one after the Magna Carta, as if I could ever forget that, never, never. And it's true, Jimmy did change the numbers, and he's like, he'll never change. Ever since he was 9, taking money out of the cash register, couldn't be precious Jimmy, and now he wants to be a lawyer? Like, what a sick joke. He's like, you believe this chicanery? I remember that whole speech, but this is, and then he looks over, he's like, you have to stop him. And they look, and they can tell that he's crazy. And that's what it starts too, is when one of the lawyers says he's trying to like help Chuck. He's like, even if Mr. McGill was schizophrenic, and Chuck's like, I am not crazy. And the whole court signs, and that's when he does the monologue. And then the final shot of the episode is him looking up at the exit sign, and he's just lost in translation, and he hears the buzzing, and it's just a gorgeous shot, and it ends. And this scene just was everything building up for almost 2.5 seasons at this point. 3.5. Season 1, 2, and then half of 3, because Chuck and Jimmy have slowly been, getting more and more pissed at each other, been more and more, like Chuck tried to set Jimmy up for a felony and all that stuff, and this was just a beautiful way to end it all. And like Jimmy wins, but at what cost? And like Chuck looks weird, but Chuck was right in every sense. And it goes back to how Howard died, where when Howard died, everyone thought he was a druggie, but in reality, that was Jimmy's fault. All right, now we're getting to the top 3. These are the scenes that a lot of people talk about when they think of Breaking Bad. At least 2 of these. I think my number 2 isn't talked about as much as it should. And I think maybe like I Am the One Who Knocks or something is talked more than my number 2. We're going to go ahead and talk about my number 3 favorite scene, which is Gus's demise. This is the finale of Gus. Gus is one of the best villains in all of TV and maybe even all of movies. Just he's so complex as a character. He just stays calm, but his calmness is a weapon because you never know what he's feeling. And that's beautifully explained in the first episode of season 4, where it's called Box Cutter, where they have them all in the super lab, and Gus comes in, doesn't say a word, takes his suit off, puts the suit on, and you think that he's going to kill Walt or Jesse, and he just slits, I think it was Victor's throat, because he was seen at Gale's crime scene, and he just get to work. And that just beautifully encapsulates Gus as a character, because he doesn't let his emotions show. And this is the one time Gus lets his guard down, is he hates Hector Salamancas and the Salamancas so much, and finally he's going to kill Hector, and he's like, I have to be the one to do this. And everyone's like, no. Even Mike's like, they're like, no, why? Like, this is stupid. Like, you're making yourself vulnerable. And he's like, I have to do this myself. And he goes there, and he taunts Hector, and little does he know that Hector and Walt met, and Walt's like, there's one person you hate more than me, and that's Gus. And Hector's like, shit, you're right. So, of course, you've all seen the scene. Here's the scene right here. Chance. Looked at me, Hector. I quote that scene all the time. But, man, just what a great way for Gus to go. I mean, he lets his guard down for 10 minutes, and it leads to his downfall and leads to Walt's uprising in the first half of season 5 as a kingpin. And just the way Hector looks at him with such hatred but such relief because he knows he's going to kill him. The bomb goes off, and then this almost subversion where you see Gus walk out. I remember, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, did he survive that? And he just fixes his tie, and you see half his face gone. And the last thing to do is he fixes his tie and he goes down. That's just like such a Gus thing. Incredible moment. Incredible scene. Man, I keep saying incredible scene, but damn. It really was. It took no music either. That's how you kill a villain right there. Number 2 is, this is the scene I was talking about that maybe not a lot of people talk about as much when it comes to like, holy shit, Breaking Bad. But this is Hank finding out. I don't know why this scene hits me so much. It's just, this scene is just insane. Maybe it's the use of the flashbacks from season 4, but this is basically right before everything goes to shit. Quick thing also, I know this scene is like one of the biggest scenes in Breaking Bad, but what I mean is like when I'm in the Reddit, when I'm on Twitter, people do talk about the scene obviously, but I feel like it's not talked about as much as one of the greater scenes in the show. And I understand there's other scenes that are better, but for me, this scene is like almost the best scene in the whole show. Just this is like 5 seasons worth of build-up. So I'm not denouncing the scene. I'm not making it any, like, I don't think it's like a none, like no one talks about it type scene, but I don't think it's talked about enough, if that makes sense. Walt has made his money. He's made, like $80 million, way more than the $777,000 he needed for cancer. In this episode even, Skyler's like, are you done? And he's like, yes, and he quits. He quits making meth. He just owns a car business, or a car wash business. And you see them at the end of the episode. They're all having dinner, and you're like, "There's still 8 episodes left. Like, there's no way they're gonna get a happy ending here. Like, Walt doesn't deserve a happy ending. As much as you wanted him to get away, he doesn't. And of course, Hank has to go take a shit. And I love the memes where there's so many factors, like, what if Hank pissed instead of shit? Then he would have never found out. What if it wasn't set in 2008? Then he would have had a cell phone. But either way, jokes aside, he goes and he takes a shit and he gets the book out. And this is Walt's ego. Walt's ego, and what I love about the show, is Walt technically beats everyone except himself. Walt's ego is his downfall. He leaves the book, which he shouldn't, which has evidence, where Gale... basically Hank opens up a poem book and it says, "To WW, my star and silence, Gale," and Walt just kept that for his ego. And then it just cut. I'm gonna show this clip here.
WW. I mean, who you figure that is? Yeah? Woodrow Wilson, Willy Wonka, Walter White.
You got me.
I'm speechless. I'm really like the way it just cuts to "you got me," and then it just cuts straight to Hank's face. And what an amazing acting performance by Dean Norris too. I mean, I feel like Hank's underrated when it comes to the acting and the character arcs. When you first meet Hank, he's sexist and he makes like Mexican jokes. He's borderline racist at times. And you see his character arc where he, especially in season 3, after he meets the twins and he survives and he's like, I'm a piece of shit, and his character arc and just Heisenberg taking over his life for a year is just nuts. But the face of realization, shock, sadness, and anger is beautifully portrayed in that final shot. And I'm so glad I didn't watch it when it came out, because people had to wait a year to find out the finale of that, the final 8 episodes after that episode, and I would never been able to make it. But what a scene. That was the buildup of 5.5 seasons, and it led directly into Walt's downfall and the whole downfall, everything that happens in the final 8 episodes. And number 1, I guess this is going to be cheating, and some of you hardcore Breaking Bad fans probably know that I haven't mentioned anything from Ozymandias yet. And if you're a casual Breaking Bad fan, or if you just don't care, Ozymandias is episode 14 of season 5. This is where everything goes to shit. Like I said, after Hank, everything starts going to shit, and Ozymandias is where everything goes to shit. This is where Walt flees, his family's in shambles, Hank dies, and it's known, and it sounds like an opinion thing, but it's known on reviewing sites and the fandom, and you don't see fandoms united a lot. This is known as the best hour of television ever produced. And I wholeheartedly agree. It's the only episode in TV history to have a 10 out of 10 on IMDb. And that's with 200,000 reviewers. That means 200,000 reviewers gave it a 10 out of 10. And it's well-deserved. And I think all the hype is there. Everyone deserves their flowers for this episode. The actors, the directors, the writers, the special effects people, everything. So my number 1, and I guess I'm cheating, is the whole episode of Ozymandias. I couldn't pick one scene because I knew one of my number 1 scenes had to be from Ozymandias. Make it Hank's death, the phone call Walt has with Skyler where he basically gives Skyler an out and she realizes that and takes it. Walt and the family just falling apart and fighting, and he takes the baby. Walt going off in the sunset. Just Hank's speech before he dies. Walt and Jesse talking to each other, and Walt admitting that he watched Jane die. I mean, holy fuck. That's the great thing about this episode and Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad in general, is the little things that it's almost like fan needs in other shows. We're like, man, I wish Walt would tell Jesse that he watched Jane die, but probably it doesn't make sense. And these people do it, and they make it such a good way, and just such hard hitting out of nowhere. So I'm going to have to say all of Ozymandias. So let's go ahead and break down Ozymandias for a little bit. Just talking about my favorite parts of the episode. Obviously, Hank's death starts off the episode. Hank's beautiful speech where he almost comes to terms with that he lost, but at the end of the day, he did what he wanted. He did cuff Heisenberg. He did win in that sense. But he almost has a show of not remorse, but right before he dies, I feel like he almost did accept Walt's apology and forgive Walt just a little bit. And that's when he comments him. He's like, "You're the smartest son of a bitch I've ever known, and you're still too stupid to see. He made up his mind 10 minutes ago." And he's like, "Do what you're gonna," and he just gets cut off and shot. and Walt's beautiful reaction of just falling to the ground, just like Gus did when Gus lost his boyfriend. And that leads to Walt just being done. Walt's over, and he has no fucks given. And that's when Jack and them are like, we're going to leave you a barrel. And Walt's like, wait, I found Jesse. And that's when he basically gives Jesse to them to be their slave. And he wants to break Jesse, because it's almost Jesse's, it's kind of Jesse's fault. Jesse's the one who worked with Hank and got Walt out there and made them think they were burning the money. And so in the heat of the moment, he blames Jesse for all this. And in a sense, maybe it is, but he tells Jesse that he watched, so Jesse's like fighting, and Walt tells him that he watched Jane die, and that just makes Jesse stop and just break down and just not move. He goes limp. He's like, what is there to live anymore? Like, I'm done. And so that leads to, Walt getting to his house, and he tells his family, he's like, we gotta go. I have a barrel of $8 million in cash. We're gonna start new lives. We're gonna get out of here. And that's when Skyler finally, steps down, and she's like, where's Hank? And she just keeps asking him, where's Hank? And where's Hank? And he just doesn't say anything. And she's like, you killed him. And he's like, no, I tried to save him. And this is the first time where the whole show, Walt Jr. takes Walt's side. Until now, he takes his mom's side, and you see the mom going for, there's a beautiful shot where there's a phone and a knife, and you're like, is she going for the phone or is she going for the knife? She goes for the knife. She slits Walt's hand, and they start fighting for the knife, and that's when Walt Jr. gets in front of his mom in the powerful scene where Walt's like, we're a family, and he just sits there and looks at them, just looking up at him in fear, and he's like, he just mumbles like, we're a family. And that's when Walt Jr. calls the cops. He's like, my dad's here, he's Heisenberg, he's here, Walter's here. And that's when he takes Holly and goes, and Skyler just starts breaking down, and he leaves in the car with Holly. And that's when you get the beautiful scene, also not beautiful but beautifully acted, where not a lot of people really picked up on this too, I guess, because I saw on forums and stuff. But basically he calls Skyler because he knows the police are at the house, and he knows they're going to be hearing into this. And, Skyler's involved with all of this, too. He wants out for her. And he basically says, I killed Hank, me. And he's basically taking all responsibility, so it had nothing to do with her or anything. And he says, all the times you told me to stop, and I warned you to not mess with me. And there's a look of just, holy shit, he's doing this. And it's silently conveyed, so I guess I can see how some people miss it. But there's a look of holy shit on Skyler's face when he starts doing this, but it's so subtle, and so she goes along with it, and she knows that he's trying to get her out. And the episode ends with him doing the vacuum repair, and he goes away. So yeah, I kind of cheated on my number one, but anytime I can give props to Ozymandias, I will. And this is the time. This is my number one. Some honorable mentions. Obviously, the whole damn show is a freaking honorable mention. There's in Better Call Saul, in the second and last episode, there's a scene where the old lady he was helping or screwing over, she finds out that he's Saul Goodman. She's looking at a commercial, and he looks at the computer, and you see the reflection of the Saul Goodman commercial in his glasses. If you don't know, anytime you see Saul Goodman post Breaking Bad, it's in black and white, but the commercial's in color, and it's just a beautiful fucking scene. I mean, holy shit. Some other scenes is where Hector has his stroke in Breaking Bad, or in Better Call Saul, the shootout in the desert in Better Call Saul, the This Is Not Meth scene, all of the pilot, just this whole show is just beautifully crafted. I just want to thank Vince Gilligan. I was lucky enough to meet Aaron and Brian, Jesse, and Walt in a meet and greet a couple months ago, and they were just such great guys. I just want to say thanks for making this show. I mean, this is a type of show where no one's gonna stop talking about this for a long time. It's just that good of a show. It's very rewatchable. Anyways, guys, I know I went on a tangent, but I had to talk about some of the good stuff of this series. Please, if you haven't watched El Camino, please do. I mean, it literally starts right at the end of Breaking Bad, like right at the end, and it's like it finishes Jesse's story in a great way. And please watch Better Call Saul. If there's one thing you listen to me on, it's El Camino and Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul, I know that the first couple episodes are I'd say like the first one, like the first season and like half of 2 are like slow. They're good. There's a lot of good scenes in there. You get more of Tuco. You learn about Nacho, and you see Mike, and you learn about Mike's backstory. And it is slow, but it's a good slow burn. And then halfway through season 2, and especially season 3, because season 2 you see Hector again. Season 3 is when you meet Gus and all of these, and Don Eladio and all the big players in Breaking Bad. You just see how all of them formed. You see how you learn who Lalo is, which is Lalo. You heard me mention him before. Lalo's a great villain and such a good character in this universe. It just, please watch it, please. One thing I forgot to mention too was the scene where Ignacio finally stands up for himself and fulfills his promise to Gus and ends up shooting himself in front of everyone. That scene was insane, and that was only episode 3 of season 6. I don't know why I didn't think of it when I made this video, but I didn't forget about it, I promise. I'm begging you. That's it. I don't want to spoil anything else for Better Call Saul. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'm glad to be back. It's good making videos for you guys. Thank you for the support on my last video. I don't know if there's going to be a video coming out between my Everything Everywhere All at Once review and this one. So if there is a video between those, then sorry. But if there isn't, or anyways, you can still listen. Thank you so much for the support. I mean, that video almost has 70 views. I had all my friends commenting and swiping up and telling me they watched it and they were liking the video. And it was just good to be back and seeing that support from my friends. Thank you guys so much. As always, it's been Beer Reviewer, aka Joey. Peace out. Bye.